Delhi's air turns toxic as winter sets in. With the city's air quality reaching extremely hazardous levels, the week speaks to Professor Sachchida Nand Tripathi, Dean of the Kotak School of Sustainability at IIT Kanpur, a leading expert in air quality and climate science. In this conversation, Professor Tripathi shares innovative solutions to combat pollution, including the use of low cost sensors for real time air quality monitoring. He also highlights IIT Kanpur's ambitious plan to achieve zero carbon emissions on campus by 2030.
So every year, especially in Delhi, though in entire northern India, but especially in Delhi, uh, during winter months, they start blaming farm fires, farmers, and Diwali about this pollution. And you recently did a study on Delhi pollution. So, sir, what were your finding, and what do you suggest the way forward for pollution in Delhi, especially?
Yeah, I mean, it is quite true that, with growing expectations, aspirations, our an economy, is on a kind of rising. There are various economic activities that gives rise to, increase in emissions. And that's particularly causing problem for Delhi because Delhi is located in a very, I would say, in such a way that very close you have tall Himalayas, and then it is possibly at some altitude. So it makes it like a little tabletop city, right? So, and moreover, during winter time, then you have kind of a reversal in the temperature structure. And that's what we call that affects the mixing height of the atmosphere. And thereby, it doesn't allow pollutants to disperse easily. So given these primarily, I would say three things: that emissions, which somewhat has increased intensity starting from early October for a variety of reasons. As you said, that one reason is the open farm fires, or other reason could be the waste and garbage burning in the street. There could be many such reasons which occur only during winter time, and adverse meteorology, and of course an orography which kind of creates is somewhat a valley-like situation. All three work together, or all three are at interplay in a way that starting with third week of October and to possibly, well within winter, that we see several critical pollution episodes over Delhi. Yeah, that's quite true. Now we have been studying Delhi air quality for quite some time in various ways. And we have got, many papers, but one, I would say, paper that came out last year was in Nature Geoscience. I would just probably tell a little bit for benefit of the viewers, is that we looked at what causes this haze formation in Delhi. And that generally what you see that as the winter, sets in, possibly from end of October or from early November, we see that there are days when you would not see haze in the morning, but then there are days you'll see haze, and that would persist for several days and possibly sometime as long as weeks or fortnights. And we looked at basically by actually examining the smallest, tiniest particles, smaller than PM 2.5, which we call as nanoparticles, which are of size of probably 20 nanometer. So you could barely see. You need to magnify it by probably just about 10th of billion in size in order to see it. So these particles actually are generated from different kind of burning combustions, right? Whether you burn things on farm, or you burn in the street, or you burn things in industry, and they come out. Now these gases, which are primarily emitted from also combustions, these are harmful gases, mainly organics, and they condense, and which leads to rapid growth of these very, very small particles. So that was actually the title of the paper, that rapid growth of nanoparticles causes severe haze in Delhi. And that is very peculiar, I would say, hasn't been seen elsewhere. Generally, these small particles, the smallest, tiniest particles, grow during daytime. And that is because of photochemistry drives it. It's only in Delhi we have seen that in nighttime this thing happens, and which kind of says that and that not that secondary pollutants, which are important, of course, but the primary emissions are also driving growth, and thereby what you see that is starting with probably 60, 70 microgram per meter cube at 6 to 7 p.m. You would see overnight, by morning, early morning, you would see 200, 300, 400 microgram per meter cube, where visibility would have dropped to probably at the most few hundred meters, and a thick haze actually kind of, hanging out there in the atmosphere. And so that's one of the finding I just thought I will share with you.
So now the Delhi government has been discussing a proposal to carry out cloud seeding, a technique that includes artificial rain over an area to tackle severe pollution crisis. How did this idea came and how effective this technique if it's implemented, sir?
See, cloud seeding is a established technique, and established in the way that it has been tried in several countries. For example, Israel, US, and UAE, United Arab Emirates, that they tried, and China has actually tried it extensively. These are tried to basically help you overcome with the drought kind of situation, right? Where what happens that you choose or you select a right kind of meteorological conditions, and where a precursor conditions are that cloud should be present, and then you try to seed it, and you seed it at some optimal location using a cocktail of seeds. And these seeds are basically some kind of aerosol particle which you create in laboratory. And how you seed it, there are a variety of ways you can seed it. What it does that it somewhat basically accelerates the overall rain formation process in the cloud. And that's why we call it cloud seeding, or we call it artificial rain, because through this, you try to create rain. And so that larger drops form, and all those processes that happens in cloud can be fast forward. And then finally, you get some rain on the surface. That is what matters. That is what is cloud seeding. And I said that many countries have tried it. India also had an extensive experimental program to evaluate cloud seeding. And that was taken by government, Ministry of All Sciences, a couple of years back. And then they concluded that, to what extent cloud seeding is successful. Now, so much is for cloud seeding, as much as far as the technology goes. Now, building on this idea, see, Chinese, they used cloud seeding to basically mitigate air pollution during Beijing Olympics. And that's well documented. Not the details, but you could find reference of that at several places. Now, idea is that, as we all have seen, that during winter time or during monsoon, we see that there is clear sky. Okay, clear, because rain is a very effective scavenger of pollutants, both particulate matter and gases. When the raindrops fall, they basically collect everything below it. That is why we all use water to wash dust from various objects, be it building, cars, or any such thing. Where water has this ability, and that, in fact, in atmosphere, it also manifests that ability. So basically, if you could rain, then you can basically remove things from the atmosphere. That's the idea. And that's where cloud seeding has kind of come into the discussion in order to kind of get some kind of a mitigation from ambient, because these particles are there out there in the atmosphere at some scale without having any adverse impact on environment, etc.
So, sir, can we see this artificial rain in near future, like first artificial rain, Delhi or in North India, something?
So, see, I mean, IIT Kanpur has a very well established both teaching and research program as part of Department of Aeronautical Engineering. Now, there for training purposes, we have several kind of these, what you call aircrafts and many other things, and gliders. And one of that aircraft is Cessna aircraft, where we have got it modified and fitted with cloud seeding equipment. And that modification happens, through a whole very rigorous process, which finally gets approval from Office of DGCA, Director General of Civil Aviation. So we have this aircraft, possibly the only one in the country, which is fitted with the cloud seeding equipment. And earlier, before that, we had a fitted aircraft. We have tried seeding in Kanpur. And after fitting or modifying the aircraft modification, we have again tried seeding in Kanpur. And we had some success. So certainly, if there is a call that the aircraft is there, the know-how is here, one can always try. The only thing is that this is something that you have to kind of try it several times. You have to experiment it in order to get perfection out of it.
So, sir, as you mentioned technology, so technology plays a huge part in solving a lot of problems today. When it comes to air pollution, what are the various advancement in technology, like how it can help tackle the pollution problems, sir?
So one thing what we have been doing and is that we are trying to kind of create low-cost air quality monitoring technologies in the country. And that's where we have a center at IIT Kanpur, which is called Atman. And we have tried to work with many startups to integrate these low-cost sensors, which reduces the cost of one location, what the government agencies, they place or deploy the monitor by factor of 50 to 80. Okay, so the current monitors cost you about, if you monitor both particulate matter and gases, it costs you about 1.4 crore rupees, and it's all done through imports. They are not built or fabricated in the country. Now we have been able to integrate it in the country at IIT Kanpur with help of startups at the cost of about 60 to 80,000 rupees. And if you, for particulate matter, if you add gases to it, it costs you about 3 to 4 lakhs. So in lieu of these monitors, the imported monitors, you can literally buy or locate or deploy 30 to 50 such sensors in a city. What it helps you that it suddenly increases the data footprint by a factor of 50. Using this technology, as of now, we have deployed 1,400 sensors in the two largest states of India, that is UP and Bihar, where we have deployed one monitors in every block, which is a kind of a cluster of villages, as you know, right? The blocks in these two states, and they are continuously giving us the data. And idea is that once you get this kind of very hyper local, discrete information, then you are able to clearly identify a hotspot at an unprecedented resolution. Second thing then what we are doing is that, which is a globally unique technology, that using sensors data and making use of artificial intelligence, we are trying to understand or identify sources which are making or contributing to a particular hotspot. Now I will give an example. Take an example of, for example, Delhi NCR, which has an area of about 1,500 to 2,000 square kilometer, whether it's NCT or NCR you take. And that has 40 monitors, 40 government monitors, each at a cost of about 1.5 crore, which costs you about 60 crore. Now, if you divide, let's say, you make it 1,800 square kilometer just for calculation, and you divide by 40. So you have about one monitor in every 40 square kilometer, right? 30 to 40 square kilometer, which is an area of, if you take a square, which is an area of 6 by 6. Now imagine a 6 by 6 is a very large area, and you have one data. Very difficult to places like India, where there are variety of things are taking place, right? All kind of activities. There could be some small industries, or there could be a vendor who is doing something, or people are burning on the street. Now, one data point is not sufficient. Now, imagine if you make it 300, you just add 300 sensors at the cost of few crore rupees. That's it. Now, you have basically increased the data resolution by what? Many factors. Now you divide 1,800 by 300. So every 6 square kilometer, now you have a data point, right? So from 40, 50 square kilometer, you brought it 6 square kilometer. In fact, you can make it even more, every 1 square kilometer. Now imagine once you know this place where you are sitting in Delhi, I don't know, this is, let's say, one hot spot. And if you can work it out, that what are the sources? Is it an open burning? Is it an unregulated burning in this direction at that distance is causing this particular hot spot on this particular time and day? Let's say on that day only. That can really kind of enable you to take certain actions, correct? And that is what technology could, empower you to do it, which you cannot do otherwise. And that all kind of actions you can do in real time, and thereby you can bring also interventions just in time to avoid any other kind of untoward effects on health properties and other things. That's where we are moving these days.
Have we started putting these sensors in any of the cities?
Yes, so as I said that we have already put 1,400 sensors in UP and Bihar, which is we are not differentiating between rural and urban spaces. The air pollution does not see, nature doesn't differentiate between city and, only the sources will be different, but as the air flows, that air pollution will flow. So we have got there. Then there are 5-6 additional cities. For example, we put few sensors in Delhi. That was a pilot project 6 years back. But followed by that, we have put in Jaipur, we have put in Guwahati, in Chennai, Lucknow, we had put about 75 sensors, and we did a variety of things. We could really identify hotspot at half a square kilometer. Because because you mentioned technology, once you bring, let's say, the satellite imagery, sensor data, government monitoring network, drone, all of that basically provides you much better information so that you can take targeted actions. Right? Because see, manual intervention will not be able to solve this problem.
So, sir, now debate, at least in Delhi is and in northern India is like vehicular emission, farm burnings, or this construction activities. All are culprit, or one is bigger culprit than other. So, according to you, which is the biggest culprit, sir, among all three, or anything else which is contributing more to the pollution?
No, I mean, I don't think that construction contributes to PM 2.5, which is more lethal or dangerous to, human being, because you can actually inhale it deeper into your bloodstream and all. Construction generally gives rise to PM10, which is larger particle, but nevertheless, it contributes to pollution. Now, burning, our data, our own, studies we have done, a whole number of studies that farm burning at its peak contributes to PM 2.5 by 35 to 40% at its peak. So if you go a little away from the peak, then certainly its contribution drops to maybe 15 and 20%. So rest of 80 certainly is coming from, as you rightly said, from the tailpipe exhausts of the fleet, vehicular fleet. There's a good contribution from industry. And there certainly are also things which are coming from, let's say, street burning, that waste, garbage, refuse, which people burn on the street because you do not have proper disposal system for the waste in cities or good part of city. And many times, which people find it counterintuitive that in cities like Delhi, people might not be using solid fuel for their cooking or house heating, space heating, or water heating. But contrary to that, we believe that in certain localities that still may be the case. For a variety of reasons, people are still, cooking, etc., on wood or coal or other thing, which all 3-4 actually contributes. Now, the last one certainly can be kind of addressed by making LPG connections or providing the last mile connectivity of LPG, let's say, to every household. That's easy. For transport, I believe that the solution are basically twofolds. One is that the more and more people, use public transport, and end-to-end connectivity can be helped or eased out by use of technology. Because once people have the complete option that from point A to B, how they move and how they get to metro, I think that can be solved by technology. But the second thing, the more metro, more electric vehicle buses are available to them, definitely that will cut down that, what is coming from the exhaust pipe. And industrial monitoring is important. There, I think a lot of work still needs to happen. Waste-related burning in cities definitely contributes in a significant way. So that requires that we need to have urgently a proper waste disposal system so that that waste doesn't end up being burnt on the street or in the lanes in the city of Delhi or anywhere.
So anyways, like some points, like, mentioning from transport to industry, you touched upon and explained also, but like when we talk of sustainable solutions, sir, on climate concerns, so anything else, what you explain is more than it includes, or like what's the solution way forward?
No, I mean, that certainly when you discuss about waste, or let's say what is industrial waste or municipal waste, there is a need, as you rightly said, that we need to think about ways, how do we recycle most of the waste? You can treat it as waste, or you can think that, well, a good amount of this is wealth, as you call it, right? So if one can move towards this broader concept of circular economy, where if most of the waste can be reused, repurposed by recycling, of course, then you have very little which eventually require final disposal. Because when you dispose, you have to be very careful, because the moment you are disposing it, it's going to enter into three things. Either it will go into air, or in water, or soil. So one has to be very, very mindful, because anywhere it's going, eventually it's going to enter into your food chain in some way, or you are going to inhale it, right? So that idea needs to be sunk in with the people. Now, I firmly also believe that since during this October-November time, there is this issue of stagnation over Delhi, because the pollution comes in with the maybe mild westerly from wherever the burning is happening, or from across the border and all that. Now that then if there is a very calm conditions, right, very quiet wind, then it doesn't allow pollution to be pushed further. I believe we can try, definitely in a very strategic way, one can try planting trees. Now, Delhi, some part has trees, we all know, but not every part has that kind of canopy, what we see in some part of Delhi. And therefore, if one can create some tree canopy belts, and with differential height, some tall, some may not be tall, I believe it can cause some very interesting circulation in Delhi. It is just like it's very well known that the tall buildings, if you ever walk during winter time or summer, if you walk in a canyon where there are very tall building, you must have seen a different kind of airflow. It's a well-known phenomena. Well, that is what I'm proposing here, that if one can create these tall tree canyons, possibly it can create some kind of wind breaking and helping faster effective dispersion of the pollutant vertically, and possibly also slowly advecting it to other places, rather making it just standing over Delhi and causing like what people are calling these days the smog chamber or all those things.
So like every year on ground, we do not see much work being done to help control air pollution. So year after year, at least in capitals, the talk of the season is pollution is rising, and you rightly touched tree canopy might help. So any other suggestions you would like to add on, so which will help in easing out pollution a bit?
I mean, you see, really speaking, that as you rightly said, that nature-based solutions are very, very important. But there are one thing I would again emphasize, which I tell always, that you need to understand that air quality is an issue which has been faced by every country, even the developed countries, be it US, UK, even that country who is on its path to possibly become developed, China. They all have a very effective air quality management system in place. I think I must emphasize that. We call it air quality management. It is because you manage always, because you always would have certain conditions which may create a situation where air quality can worsen, right? No state always you would see a good air quality all the time. Even London, which has taken so many steps since the infamous London smog, which happened in middle of 1950s. Still, they occasionally see this rise in either PM 2.5 or sometime ozone. Now, what they have, that if you have a very robust air quality management system in place, and what does it constitute of? It needs to have proper people, that you need to have trained people. So that requires that we lack severely capacity in this country, air quality management. That is at the regulatory boards level. And also, we are not producing enough air quality management professionals. So both, there is an issue from the demand side and also from the supply side. From both, we need to address. The top institutions, technical institutions need to create more, targeted program on air quality management. That is one thing that is required. Second is infrastructure. I said that if you have better monitoring, as saying goes, that you cannot manage something well which you are not able to monitor. It's so well known. So you need to invest into infrastructure. So these two cannot be any more overemphasized. But the third important issue is that we need to create a massive awareness amongst people, that so that they they start thinking green, right? That the people, when they build house, then they plant trees. As you rightly said, they start going for nature-inspired things. They tend to use more and more public transport. But then you have to provide that facility. You have to really create those provisioning for them, right? You need to create those kind of things where roads, safe roads, where people cycle more, people walk more. So these all go together. And I'm sure that this will happen. The only thing we need to kind of expedite the whole process.
So we have heard like IIT Kanpur, your campus itself is doing so many ways to sustain or and pollution levels. You all are maintaining it. So what all measures you follow in your campus to make it a very sustainable campus? Just I thought like for our leaders might be interesting.
Right. Yeah, thank you. Actually, on the campus, we have set a kind of ambitious goal to make it a net zero campus by 2030. And net zero implies that basically, as you know, that the world is going for net zero, and our country has committed to attain net zero by 2070. That basically the amount of carbon dioxide what you emit from all activities, same amount you must be able to sequester or bring from atmosphere into some storage or some way. And that is where you call that this is a net zero thing. So when we say that IIT Kanpur campus has set this goal to attain net zero by 2030, it implies that we want to be net zero in terms of energy. We also have added two things here, and that's which is basically the holistic view of net zero, is to get net positive on water. That implies that we'll not draw water from any external source or from groundwater, because we all know that our groundwater is also depleting everywhere because of the excess uses over a period of time. And third thing here is that net zero waste. That is, that zero waste should leave your premises outside for disposal. On all these three things, what we have started doing, that first thing, you have to do an audit of all these, that what is your energy consumption, what's the pattern of energy consumption in terms of various facilities, various amenities, utilities, and how does it vary over a period of day or season. And likewise, we have done for water and waste. Now, while energy and water both are going on, I will just give you that what we are doing on waste. So we have been trying to work with Kanpur and UP government to kind of transfer some of the know-how we have in terms of creating a very, I would say a sustainable roadmap for waste management, which uses homegrown technologies, okay? And where the principle of circular economy can be adhered to. So that one thing we are already helping Kanpur administration with that. On the campus, we have already been trying something called very simple technology, where you just take the municipal waste, segregate it, and kind of inject it with some very simple microorganism, and they eat out, and the residue actually acts as a biomanure. So then that can be simply be used as fertilizer for, for your lawn or many other thing, or you can even, make revenue out of it. Our plan is to do or scale it using biodigester for entire municipal waste. And then our second step of our plan is to then try something what we are trying now, to basically manage the all other waste than municipal one, right? So this is the way we are trying to go for IIT Kanpur campus, and we believe that definitely many other campuses certainly will be, probably can take advantage of this whole thing once we have already deployed and achieved this goal by 2030. And it's very important that we start, thinking in terms of, that the whole planet is, as it says in our text, is one nest. And this is one thing I like to say. It is said in Sanskrit in, I think, Yat Atharved, that and the idea is that one planet, one health. So it's the whole planet, if you just think, is like one nest. That means our activities will basically not only drive other people's, future, but ours as well. So that is one thing everyone has to keep in mind. I will just add one small thing, that we are also trying to create a lot of new curriculum on sustainability, and which we want to not only kind of bring into the engineering, science, and humanities curriculum in IIT Kanpur, but we want to take it forward so that it can become integral part of the secondary education in the country, and also can be made part of the university education, because it is the future generation who would become the sustainability warrior in future. So that is where we are also working on.